I've opened the Lesson 5 class news document, and now I'm going to save it with a new file name. That will preserve the class 5 news document if I want to go back and restart this lesson. So I'll go to the File tab, select Save As, choose my hard drive and folder, and then save the document. Next, I want to edit the properties for this document. So I'll go to File, Properties, and in the description area, I'm going to change the title Lesson 5 Class News to Lesson 6 Class News, and then select OK. And notice that the title, which was an inserted field, has now been updated automatically. So I can save this version of my Lesson 6 Class News document. Notice that the date field did not change from what it was in the Lesson 5 document. If I double-click on that inserted field, you can see that the fixed date option was used. If we change this to the current date and say OK, the date field would be updated to the new date. Following the instructions in the printed version of this lesson, I've gone ahead and added some text. I'm going to place the cursor in the paragraph that says Graphics can enhance documents, and then I'm going to go with the Home tab selected. I'll go to the paragraph style, and I'll select from the drop-down list Heading 1 and change that paragraph to the Heading 1 style. Next, I'm going to insert a graphic image into this document. First, I'll press Control-End to make sure my cursor is in the last paragraph in the document. And then, from the Home tab, I can select the Insert Image tool. In the Insert Image dialog box, I need to find an image. Just for practice, I think I'll go to my local disk, the C disk, and I'll go to Windows, then I'll scroll down here to Web, and then I'll select Screen, and that'll give me several images that I can use. You can choose any image that you prefer for your exercise. In Windows 10, when I'm using the File Explorer and I hover on an image, a little box will pop up that tells me the type of file and the dimensions of that file. This is pretty big. 1920 by 1200 may overwhelm the space I have in my document, but I can fix that soon. So I'll select that image, then I'll select Open, and now that image has been inserted into the document. When I select that image in the document, you should notice that the grab points appear at the corners and midpoints of the object. I can use those to resize the object, but there's a more precise way to do that. I'm going to double-click on the image, and that will open up the Image dialog box. First, I'll go to the Type tab, and I want to make sure that the Keep Ratio option is turned on. No matter what dimension I use for the width, then the height will be automatically adjusted to preserve the aspect ratio. I'm going to set the width in this example to 2.5 inches, and I'm going to not center the image, but I'm going to have the image move to the right, and notice that the anchor point is to paragraph, and this is going to be to the right of the paragraph area. Then I'm going to choose the Wrap tab, and then I'll choose the Before Wrap option. This will make the text flow around the left side of the image with the image on the right side of the document. I'll set some spacing between the image and the document, and then I'll choose a border, and I'll have borders on all 4 sides, and if I like, I can choose a shadow. This time we'll cast a shadow to the bottom right of the image. This area called padding is the space between the border and the actual image. I'm going to increase this to about 0.12 just to demonstrate how this works. And then I'll choose a color for that padding. I think I'll choose, light blue this time. And I'll select OK to see what happens. And now you see that my image has been inserted to the right side with space between the image and the text and padding between the image itself and the border that I added around the image. And then you see the drop shadow that was added in that image dialog box. And notice that that drop shadow is light blue. If I double click on the image again and return to the Borders tab in the image dialog box and change the color of the shadow, I can change it to, a dark gray, and you'll see the effect of that. And now you see the dark gray shadow that was set along with the border. Also, when this image is selected, the system has automatically selected the Image tab. And from the Image tab, I have all of these tools available to work on this image, including area. Right now the area is set to none. Let me set the area to some color and then choose a color, and you see the effect of that. We can choose any color we like around this image. So that has kind of the effect of placing a mat around our image in that padding area that we set earlier. So you can see that inserting graphic images and then adjusting the various parameters is fairly easy in LibreOffice Writer. Let's look at another option, and that is drawn images. On my display, along the bottom here, I'm displaying the drawing toolbar. If that's not on your display, simply go to View, Toolbars, and toggle the drawing toolbar on. That gives us a whole collection of different drawing tools. Just for fun, I'll go to the symbol collection and I'll choose the smiley face tool, and now I get a little drawing cursor. The way I use this is I left click, then drag out the image that I want, and when I release, I've created a drawing image. And now the tab's automatically set to the Draw tab, and in the Draw tab I can adjust a lot of things. For example, I can adjust the area color, the fill color, and I think I'll make my smiley face yellow, and the line color, I think I'll make that, instead of a dark blue, I think I'll make that black. And the line width, well, I get line styles here, but no line width. However, over in the Properties sidebar, you notice that we've selected this Properties option for the sidebar. A lot of these tools for the drawing options are duplicated, but there's a couple of differences. One is that there's a width option over here in the sidebar, and I can choose a different width for the line, the black line that surrounds my object. Also, although it won't be too exciting in this example, there's an option here for me to rotate my object to any angle. All of these tools are in the Properties sidebar when you have a graphic object selected. I'm going to drag this object down a ways to a different location on the screen. Notice as I move the cursor over a drawing object, the four-way arrow appears, and when I have a four-way arrow cursor, I can click and I can drag that object to a new location. Now I'll go down here to the toolbar, and this time I'm going to use a call out. And there's a whole collection of different kinds of call outs. Maybe I'll use the cloud style call out. and I'll drag a cloud out here someplace. And once the cloud is in place, I can move that around. You notice that in addition to the grab tools, one of these little bubbles is colored, and I can drag that around to change the actual direction, in this case, of that cloud callout. Once again, I have a drawing object selected, so the Draw tab is selected, and I can go in here and I can change the line color to black. I can change the area color to white for this example. Now, when a drawing object is selected, you can actually add text to that object. If I double click, a text cursor appears, and then I can type some words. I can double click here to select that word, and then in the properties, the sidebar, I can control the font, whether it's bold. There's all of these parameters that I can set, whether I have this text aligned to the center, which I do in this case, or left, right. All of these options operate on text that's selected, that is text that was inserted into a drawing object. I don't think I like Liberation Serif for this. I'm going to change that to Comic Sans. And then I'm going to take advantage of the Increase Font Size tool. Select that a few times to make this larger. Now, drawn graphic objects are similar to inserted pictures or inserted images in that you can wrap the text around the object. And to do that, you select an object first, and then that will open up the Draw tab. In the Draw tab, you can select the kind of word wrap you would like to use. In this example, I'm going to select the optimal page wrap. That was for the smiley face. Then I'll select the cloud callout, and once again I'll select optimal page wrap for that. Now I need some text to demonstrate the page wrap, so I've gone back to the document, the tutorial document, and I've copied some text that I'll paste into this document. And I'm going to do that several times, I think. However, since the objects were anchored to the text, if I click on this object, you'll see an anchor point. They're anchored in a paragraph that's below the paragraphs that I inserted. So I'm going to drag this object up into the text just to demonstrate how the wrap works. But here's another trick. Instead of just dragging one object at a time, when I've selected one of the objects, I can hold the Shift key down and select another object, and now both of those objects are kind of locked together so that I can drag them around. Let me slide up here a little bit and drag these around. And you can see how the page wrap is wrapping around these objects. That's the optional page wrap option. Let me click away to deselect. This guy has gotten away from it a little bit. Let me move this smiley face back up here in contact with my call out. I've made quite a few changes to my document, so I better remember to go ahead and save this version of the document. Now I'm going to use Control-End to go to the last paragraph that I've entered so far, and I want to put some examples on a new page, so I'm going to do a forced page break. I'll hold the Control key down and press the Enter key. That will automatically jump my text paragraph to the very next page. I want a fresh page here just to demonstrate some of the other drawing options that we have available. For example, there's an ellipse tool, and I can stretch out an ellipse here. And once I've done that, in the Draw tab, I can mess with the color, I can mess with the line color, the line width. Of course, the line width I have to take care of over here in the sidebar. And line color I can take care of right here in the Draw tab or in the sidebar, either one. Instead of filling this with a solid color, I'm going to change the area option to gradient, and then I'll take a look at the gradients that are available. Maybe I'll make a sunshine gradient fill in that object. And there, that was an ellipse. There's a circle tool, which I could also use. By the way, if I use the ellipse tool, I could also make a circle if I hold the Shift key down while I'm stretching it out. As long as I'm holding the Shift key down while I'm making an ellipse, it locks the major and minor axis of the ellipse. For some reason, they decided that people didn't realize that was there, so they added a perfect circle tool. Once again, with that selected, we have the option of changing line colors and area colors or area. Let's do a bitmap fill this time. And there's a list of bitmaps we can use. Sky is fine for this example. Let me click away from that, play around a little bit more. Maybe I can create a rectangle, or I can create a rectangle with rounded corners. Let's try the rounded corner rectangle. This time, I think I'll experiment with the hatching option. And there's a whole pop-down list of different hatching patterns that can be used. Oh, back in the old days when I was doing drafting, doing cross-hatching was a real bother, but now the system does hatching without any problems whatsoever. And we have more tools to play with here. Oh, what do we have in the star area? Let's try, how about just a 6-point star? And let's fill that with something different. Let's make a yellow 6-point star with black lines, and maybe real thick black lines. And for something else, I saw something here in the star collection that was kind of interesting, and that's a vertical scroll. Okay, let's put a scroll in there, and let's change the color to something sort of close to parchment. And let's make the line color black again. When I have a drawn graphic selected, I can double click in that drawn graphic and get a text cursor and type some text. And you notice that we have the option of alignment of the selected text. In that case, I only had the top line selected. However, if I would select all of the text, then I could right justify, left justify, center justify all of the text together. I can make it bold, I can make it larger, and you get the idea. So there are a lot of drawing tools available for you to experiment with. I just want to do one more for now, and that's something called font work. Let me choose a font work style. How about Favorite 4? I'll double click on that and scroll down to see what happened. Well, there it is, awfully big. So I think I'll grab this corner grabber, and then I'll move it around a little bit And in this case, I'll do the side grabber, and there's some font work. Now, just like on the other tools, if I don't like the text of that font work, I can double click on it, and then I can edit the text. I can either delete it, or I can edit any way I want. Once I'm done editing, I click away, and there you have it. And again, the area options are available, so if I want to put a bitmap in that, maybe some fiery bitmap colors. So a lot of different drawing tools to experiment with here. So you should take some time and practice inserting drawing objects into your documents. Let me zoom out a little bit to display more of this document here. If I back off a little bit, I want to back off far enough so that I can see the headers on my different pages. By now you should have at least 3 pages of documents. Let me zoom back in and focus on the left page header. This is kind of a dumb header, so let me edit that. I'm going to select that entire paragraph, click, 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 and then I'm going to go and insert a field in place of that. So let me select Insert, Field. I'm going to insert the title field. And now all of my left side pages will have that title field as their header. For my right page header, let me select that first. I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to insert field, more fields, and that opens up the fields dialog box, and there are a lot of things here I could insert. I'll try chapter and do the chapter name and see what happens. And then I'll close that. Graphics can enhance documents. Where did that come from, you might ask? Well, back up here a ways. The last heading 1 that was used was graphics can enhance documents. So what's happening in this example is that LibreOffice Writer is treating heading 1 paragraphs as chapter titles and inserting them, in this case, inserting them on right page headers. When I was creating the collection of lessons into a book format using LibreOffice Writer, I used the idea of having what's called running headers on the right side pages. That's beyond the scope of this lesson, but I just wanted to let you know that this kind of thing is available within the LibreWriter software.